Jalen had never imagined that leaving Earth would feel like stepping into a dream. The stars stretched endlessly around him as his shuttle descended toward Yalara Prime, a planet bathed in golden light. Humans had always been curious about the universe, but no one in his generation had actually set foot on a truly alien world. Now here he was, heart pounding with excitement and a strange sense of fear. The moment his boots touched the glowing soil, Jalen felt a shiver run through him. It was not cold, not hot. It was like the planet itself was alive, breathing under his feet. Around him, the air shimmered faintly, reflecting the twin suns in soft golden waves. Every instinct in him screamed both wonder and caution. He had read about Yalara Prime in reports, the forests that sang with the wind, the rivers that glowed under the moons, and the creatures that seemed to appear from the light itself. But nothing in the reports could prepare him for this moment. From the edge of a forest of luminous trees, a group of beings emerged. They were tall, elegant, and unlike anything Jalen had ever seen. Their skin seemed to reflect the light around them, shifting like liquid silver. Most of them observed him silently, their expressions unreadable. But one figure stepped forward, smaller than the rest, almost delicate yet radiating a quiet strength. Her silver eyes met his, and for a moment it felt like she could see right into him. "Welcome, human," she said, her voice soft, almost musical. Jalen's chest tightened. Her words were simple, yet they carried warmth, respect, and something else he couldn't name. It made his heart race in a way that no human greeting ever had. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Jalen met more of the Yalari, learning about their culture, their values, and their incredible bond with the planet. Unlike humans, they did not rush or demand. They observed, they listened, and they spoke only when necessary. He noticed how the smaller figure, her name was Leora, he would later learn, watched him quietly, as if measuring him, not with judgment but with curiosity. As night fell, the golden light of the suns faded into a soft twilight. Jalen found himself alone near a glowing river, its waters shimmering like liquid stars. He could hear the gentle hum of the forest, a sound that felt alive, and then he heard a soft voice behind him. "Do you like it here?" It was Leora. Her silver eyes reflected the light of the river, and her presence made the world feel smaller, closer, almost intimate. I don't know," Jalen admitted, trying to sound calm. "It's beautiful, more than I ever imagined." He looked at her, and for a moment the distance between human and alien didn't exist. He wanted to tell her that the moment he saw her, he felt something shift inside him, but the words stuck in his throat. Leora smiled faintly. Most humans only see what they can take or use. Few notice what is alive, what is sacred. Her words were gentle, but they struck him deeply. He realized that she was right. He had seen the beauty, but now standing there with her, he understood that there was something far greater, something that could not be taken, only respected. The night grew colder, yet he did not feel it. Leora stood beside him, silent, and together they watched the glowing river. For the first time in his life, Jalen felt that humanity's place in the universe was not just to conquer or explore. It was to learn, to understand, to rise to a higher purpose. And in that quiet, shining world, he felt hope, not just for himself, but for everyone who called Earth home. He did not know it yet, but this first encounter with Leora would change the course of his life, and perhaps the fate of humanity itself. Over the next few days, Jalen found himself drawn deeper into the world of Yalara Prime. Each step he took on the glowing ground felt heavier with wonder. He wandered through forests where the leaves hummed in the wind, and rivers where the water shimmered like melted silver. Yet no matter how stunning the world was, it was Leora who captivated him the most. She did not speak much, but when she did, every word seemed to carry weight. Her silver eyes, always calm and observing, followed him wherever he went. Sometimes she would simply stand silently by his side, letting him take in the wonders around them. And sometimes, without explanation, she would gently guide him, pointing to flowers that glowed with hidden colors, or to creatures that seemed to dance with the light. One evening, they walked along a valley lit by floating orbs of energy. The air was cool, scented with unknown flowers, and the world seemed peaceful, almost sacred. Jalen spoke first, breaking the silence. "I've never seen anything like this," he said, voice low. "It's beautiful and alive, not like human cities. Everything here feels connected." Leora nodded, her gaze on him. "Yes, everything has a place. Everything belongs. Humans often forget that. You take without thinking. You build and you destroy without listening to what is already here. Her voice was gentle, but it carried a truth that stung him. Jalen's chest tightened. He had always believed humanity could rise above its flaws, but here, with Leora, he realized how much they still had to learn. He wanted to tell her that he was different, that he could see what mattered, that he could be better. But the words caught in his throat. Instead, he said quietly, "I want to understand. I really do. I want to see things the way you do." For a moment, she simply looked at him, her eyes reflecting the glowing river below. Then she smiled, faint but genuine. "Perhaps you can. Perhaps not. Time will tell." In the following days, they spent hours together. Leora taught him how to listen to the planet, to sense the life in the trees, the rivers, even the air. She showed him how each creature played a role, how nothing existed merely for humans to use. And in these quiet lessons, Jalen began to feel something stirring inside him, something he had never felt before. It was a strange warmth, a connection, not just to the planet, but to her. He noticed how his heart raced whenever she spoke, how her gaze seemed to linger longer than necessary, how her presence made the stars feel closer, as if the universe itself was inviting him to see it through her eyes. One night, while resting near a glowing pond, Leora spoke softly. "Jalen, why do you care? Humans usually leave, take what they need, and never look back." He looked at her, feeling the weight of her question. "Because I don't want to be like that. I've seen what humans can do when we care. I want to be the kind of human who doesn't just take, but who understands. And I want to know you. Not just your world, but you." Her silver eyes widened slightly. For the first time, Jalen saw a flicker of emotion in her gaze that wasn't instruction, observation, or curiosity. It was something softer, more fragile, more real. She said nothing for a long moment, and he felt the silence stretch like a rope between them, taut with possibilities. Finally, she spoke, barely above a whisper. Perhaps there is hope. Perhaps humans are not as lost as I thought." Jalen's heart leapt. He wanted to reach for her, to tell her everything he felt, but he knew the moment was delicate. Instead, he simply nodded, letting the silence and the light of the glowing pond speak for him. And in that quiet, luminous night, something shifted. For the first time, Jalen did not feel small in the universe. He felt part of it, connected, alive, and perhaps capable of greatness. The next morning, Jalen woke to the soft glow of Yalara Prime's twin suns. He felt a strange mix of hope and unease. The planet was beautiful, alive, and full of wonder, but the humans were here for a purpose, and that purpose was not always kind. A messenger from the human fleet arrived. A stern face hiding curiosity behind discipline. Jalen had expected this, yet the weight of it hit harder than he imagined. The humans had begun evaluating the planet's resources, taking notes, scanning the forests, measuring the rivers. They spoke of potential, strategic advantage, and colonization, words that sounded like they belonged to a machine, not a human heart. Jalen's chest tightened. He had seen the planet's beauty, felt the life that pulsed through every tree, every river, every glowing flower, and now he realized that his people might destroy it if he did not act. His mind raced. How could he protect this world and Leora without defying his own kind? He found Leora near the luminescent river, sitting with her knees drawn to her chest. Her silver eyes reflected the morning light, and her expression was unreadable. When she noticed him, she stood gracefully, as if every movement were part of the planet's rhythm. "Jalen," she said softly, "the humans, I can see them now. I feared they might come, but not so soon. They see this world as something to take, not to respect." Her words stung, but they were not angry. There was sadness there, deep and quiet. Jalen felt a lump in his throat. I didn't think it would be like this," he admitted. "I came to learn, to understand. Not to watch them harm your world." Leora stepped closer. "Humans are powerful. They build, they innovate, but they also destroy. Your people are not all the same, but many cannot see life as we do. You might be different." Jalen's heart pounded. Her words were not only a warning, they were a plea. "I'll try," he whispered. "I'll do whatever I can to protect this place. And you, I won't let them hurt it. Or you." She tilted her head slightly, studying him. "Do you understand what you are saying, human? If you try, you might go against your own. You may face opposition, ridicule, even danger." "I understand," he said firmly. "But I also understand that if I don't, this world, and you, could be lost forever. For a moment they stood in silence, the soft glow of the river reflecting the weight of their unspoken thoughts. The wind rustled the glowing leaves, and somewhere in the distance a creature's song echoed softly. It was a beautiful, fragile sound, and Jalen realized that every life here mattered. Every tree, every river, every creature, and every being, including Leora. She reached out and touched his hand, her fingers warm and gentle. "Then we will see if hope can truly exist," she said softly. "Perhaps humans are not beyond redemption. Perhaps not." Jalen felt a strange determination rise within him. He had come to see an alien world, to witness life beyond Earth. But now he realized that his mission had changed. It was no longer about exploration alone, it was about protecting, about bridging the gap between his people and hers, about proving that humanity could rise above its own flaws. As he looked into Leora's silver eyes, he felt something he had never felt before, a mixture of fear, responsibility, and a growing, undeniable connection. He was no longer just a visitor. He had a role, a duty, and perhaps a chance to show that humans could be more than conquerors. They could be heroes. And in that quiet, glowing morning, Jalen knew that nothing would ever be the same. He had seen the beauty of Yalara Prime, and he had glimpsed a human heart capable of change. The question was whether he could protect both before it was too late. Jalen spent the day wandering through the glowing forests of Yalara Prime, but his mind was restless. Every tree, every shimmering river, seemed to remind him of what was at stake. He had come as a human scout, tasked with observing, reporting, and evaluating this world for the fleet. But the more he saw, the more he realized that his report could mean destruction. And in the center of it all was Leora, the small, silver-eyed figure who had shown him that life could be more than survival and conquest. By afternoon, the human council summoned him. Their faces were stern, expectant, and unyielding. They spoke of strategic advantages, of resources to be used, of opportunities to expand human influence. Every word felt like a knife slicing through his heart. Jalen nodded and took notes, but his mind was elsewhere, running through the glowing forests, the rivers that sang, and the gentle, observing eyes of Leora. Returning to the luminescent river, he found her waiting. She had sensed his conflict as always. "You carry a heavy burden," she said softly. "I can feel it in your thoughts. Your people expect something from you, something that might hurt this world." Jalen sank to the ground beside her, the soft glow of the river reflecting on his face. "I don't know what to do," he admitted. "I want to obey my people, my orders, but I cannot watch them destroy this place. And I cannot leave without you." Leora placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Then you must choose, human. Your heart will tell you what is right, but it will not be easy. Choosing the right path often means walking alone." Her words were simple, but they carried a weight heavier than any report or order. Jalen realized she was right. To protect Yalara Prime, to honor its life and her trust, he might have to defy everything he had been trained to do. And yet in his chest, his heart pulsed with a growing certainty. This world and she were worth the risk. Hours passed as they sat by the river, the silence stretching between them. Jalen felt the enormity of the decision pressing down on him, but he also felt the fragile strength of hope rising within. Humans had always been judged as destroyers, conquerors, or dreamers. Now he had a chance to prove that they could be more. Finally he spoke, his voice steady despite the storm in his chest. "I will not let them hurt this world. I will not let them hurt you. I will stand for Yalara Prime, even if it means going against my own people." Leora's silver eyes widened and then softened with something like relief. "Then perhaps hope is not lost," she whispered. She reached out, her hand brushing his. "I will help you, Jalen. Together we may show them a different path. A better path." The weight on Jalen's shoulders did not disappear, but it shifted. Now it carried purpose. He had made his choice. Humanity could still rise to greatness, and he would be the bridge. For the first time he felt not just fear or awe, but determination, the kind that could move mountains, cross stars, and change hearts. As night fell, the twin suns dipping below the horizon, the forest glowed brighter in defiance of darkness. Jalen and Leora stood together, side by side, facing the unknown future. He did not know what challenges awaited or how many battles he would have to fight. Not with weapons, but with words, choices, and courage. Yet in that moment, he understood the truth. Greatness was not measured by power or conquest. but by the courage to protect what is precious, by the willingness to do what is right even when it is hardest. And for the first time, Jalen believed that humanity could be more than conquerors. They could be heroes. The night on Yalara Prime was unlike anything Jalen had ever seen. The twin moons cast silver shadows across the glowing forests, and the soft hum of the rivers filled the air like music. Every living thing seemed to breathe in rhythm with the planet, a quiet, harmonious song that made Jalen feel both small and alive. But it wasn't the world that captured his heart tonight. It was Leora. She walked beside him in silence, her silver eyes reflecting the moons. There was something in her gaze that made his chest tighten, a quiet intensity that drew him closer even though he didn't fully understand why. He had faced countless challenges as a human scout, but nothing had prepared him for this, the raw, unspoken connection that pulsed between them. Finally, she stopped near a waterfall glowing with pale blue light. The water cascaded gently, creating mist that danced in the moonlight. Leora turned to him, her expression softer than he had ever seen. Her voice was almost a whisper carried on the gentle wind. "Jalen, may I tell you something before you go?" The word struck him like a sudden spark. His heart raced uncontrollably. "Of course," he breathed, his voice barely steady. She looked down at the glowing water as if gathering courage from its soft shimmer. "I have watched your kind for a long time," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I have seen humans as destroyers, conquerors, as beings who take without thinking, who build without care. I feared the same of you." Jalen's heart sank. He had known that humans were often judged harshly, but hearing it from her, someone he cared for, made the truth sting. I know we are not perfect," he said quietly. "I know our mistakes. But I want to be different. I want to protect, to understand, to rise above." Her eyes met his, shining with a mixture of hope and fear. "And yet here you are," she whispered, "standing FO. Or what is right, even when all your people might not. You carry a burden most cannot even imagine. And I see it. I see your heart, Jalen." For a moment the world felt suspended. The waterfall's glow, the soft hum of the river, the shimmering forest, they all seemed to fade, leaving only the two of them, hearts beating in sync, connected in a way neither of them had expected. I care for you," Leora confessed, her voice barely audible. "Not just your words, not just your actions, but you. I have felt something in you that I did not think existed among your kind. And it frightens me because I know what you represent, and what you could lose." Jalen felt a surge of emotion he could not contain. His chest tightened, his vision blurred slightly, and yet a warmth spread through him stronger than any fear. "I care for you too," he admitted, his voice trembling. "More than I ever thought I could. You've shown me a world worth protecting, a future worth fighting for, and you." She stepped closer, letting her hand brush against his. The connection was electric, simple yet profound. A bond beyond words, beyond species, beyond expectation. "Then perhaps humans are not beyond hope," she whispered again. The moonlight caught her eyes, making them glow even brighter, and Jalen realized that hope wasn't just a word. It was alive. It was tangible, and it was in this very moment, in her presence, in their shared understanding. They stood together, silent, feeling the weight of their emotions, the power of their connection, and the responsibility that lay ahead. Leora's confession had changed everything. Jalen no longer felt like a visitor to this world. He felt like its protector, its bridge, and something far more personal, its witness to the possibility that humanity could rise not as conquerors, but as heroes. And in that soft, glowing night, Jalen knew one undeniable truth. The bond they shared, fragile yet unbreakable, could shape not only their hearts but the future of both their worlds. The dawn on Yalara Prime broke like a promise. The twin suns spilled golden light across the glowing forests, and the rivers shimmered like molten silver. Jalen awoke with a sense of purpose that had never felt so real. Last night's confession still lingered in his mind, Leora's words echoing in his heart. She had seen him, not as a human scout, not as a representative of conquest, but as someone who could choose to rise above. He found her waiting near the glowing river, her silver eyes calm, yet carrying the quiet intensity that always made his chest tighten. "Jalen," she said softly, "the humans will soon make their next move. You must be ready. They will not wait for understanding. They will act first. He nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. The weight of responsibility pressed on him, heavier than any armor, sharper than any blade. "I will be ready," he said firmly. "I cannot let them destroy this world, not after everything I've seen. Not after what you've shown me." Leora stepped closer, her hand brushing against his. "You carry hope in your heart," she whispered. "Hold it tightly, for the journey ahead will test you in ways you cannot yet imagine. You are not just a human, you are something more." Jalen's heart raced, but fear was mixed with determination. She was right. He was more than a scout, more than a human observer. He was a bridge between worlds, a chance for humanity to rise to its greatest potential, and he would not fail. The day passed with a tense rhythm. Jalen guided the humans through controlled explorations, all the while careful not to reveal the full wonders of the planet. Each step he took was measured, each word chosen. He could feel Leora watching him, her gaze steady, full of trust and quiet encouragement. And every time their hands brushed, every time her eyes met his, a surge of energy passed through him, reminding him why he had chosen this path. That evening, they met at the waterfall again, the pale blue light casting long shadows across their faces. Leora's expression was both tender and serious. "Jalen," she said, "the humans may not understand immediately. Some will resist, some will doubt, but you have a chance to show them that respect, understanding, and courage are stronger than force." He looked at her, feeling a mixture of love, fear, and determination. "I will do it," he whispered. "I will fight not with weapons, but with words, with choices. With every part of myself, I will protect this world, and I will protect you." A faint smile touched her lips, and for a brief moment the weight of the universe seemed to lift. "Then perhaps the impossible is possible," she said softly. As night fell, Jalen stood by the glowing river alone for a while, thinking about humanity, about Leora, and about the responsibility he had chosen to bear. He realized that the true measure of greatness was not in conquering or taking, but in the courage to do what is right, even when it is hardest. Humanity had often been judged harshly, but here, on Yalara Prime, he felt the chance to prove that they could rise above their flaws. He closed his eyes and made a silent promise. He would not fail. Not for himself, not for humanity, and not for Leora. Their trust, their hope, and the fragile beauty of this world depended on him. And in that quiet, luminous night, Jalen understood something deeper than fear or duty. The strength of the human heart, when guided by empathy, courage, and love, could change the course of history. He was ready to face whatever came next. For the first time, he did not just feel part of the universe, he felt its protector, its witness, and its hero. The human fleet had begun its final assessment of Yalara Prime, but Jalen stood firm. He had spent weeks understanding the planet, learning its rhythms, listening to its life, and forming a bond that transcended worlds. And he had learned something more. Humanity was capable of greatness, not just destruction. As the humans moved through the forests, marking resources, Jalen stepped forward. "Stop," he commanded, his voice steady, carrying authority he hadn't known he possessed. The fleet officers looked at him with surprise, some with irritation, but he did not falter. "This world is alive. It is not ours to take. If we harm it, we dishonor ourselves, and we risk losing something far more precious than resources: trust, friendship, and the chance to rise above who we were." Whispers ran through the human ranks, doubt mingled with admiration. Jalen's words were simple, but the conviction behind them carried weight that machines and technology could never match. He looked to the edge of the forest, and there she was, Leora, her silver eyes shining in the glow of the alien moons. She stepped forward slowly, as if lending him her strength. "You speak truth, human," she said softly. "Your people may not understand yet, but the choice is yours. The greatness of humanity lies not in power, but in courage, in respect, in the heart that chooses to protect rather than destroy." Jalen's chest swelled. He realized that this was more than a mission. It was a moment that could redefine his species. He felt the weight of generations on his shoulders, yet it no longer felt heavy. It felt like purpose. "I choose hope," he said aloud, his voice carrying across the glowing forest. "I choose respect, and I choose to stand for what is right even when it is hard. That is what humanity can be." The officers looked at each other, uncertain, but something in their expressions shifted. The humans around him began to see not just an alien world, but the responsibility that came with it. And in that moment, Jalen knew he had changed something far greater than the forest or the rivers. He had changed hearts. Leora stepped closer, her hand brushing his. The connection between them, fragile yet unbreakable, gave him strength. "You've shown me what I feared humans could never be," she whispered. "You've shown me hope." Jalen smiled faintly, feeling warmth in a way he had never known. "And you've shown me what we could become," he said. "Not conquerors, but heroes. Not destroyers, but protectors." The night deepened, and the glowing forest seemed to pulse in approval, as if the planet itself acknowledged the choice they had made. Jalen looked around at the humans who hesitated, who listened, who considered a path that was different from the one they had always known. He realized that change was possible, even for a species as flawed as his own. Years later, Jalen returned to Yalara Prime, not as a scout, but as an ambassador. Humans and Yalari had built a fragile but enduring alliance based on respect, understanding, and shared hope. He walked again along the glowing rivers, but this time he was not alone. Leora's hand rested in his, and together, they watched new human explorers approach with curiosity, not conquest. Jalen remembered her words from that first night, whispered under the silver moons. "May I tell you something before you go?" She had told him, and it had changed everything. Humanity had been tested, and in that test, they had risen. And as he looked at Leora, at the glowing forests, at the life that pulsed all around, Jalen understood a simple truth. Greatness is not inherited, it is chosen. And sometimes all it takes is one heart willing to stand for hope, courage, and love. In that moment, humanity was more than a species. They were heroes. And Jalen knew that for the first time, the universe would never underestimate them again.